Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Gruber. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Welcome to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason Mefford.
And I am Kathy Gruber, and I'm so excited about this episode today because we're talking about one of my favorite things, play.
Who wants to talk about that?
We all should. It's so important. It helps us regenerate our brain. It helps decrease stress. It helps us get in touch with an ego state that often is so forgotten as we're an adult. So I'm so excited to talk about this.
Well, it does, because I think there's a saying that I try to remind myself of. All work and no play makes Jason a very boring boy, right? And a lot of times, again, I mean, we get to be adults. We've got responsibilities. We've got a job. We've got businesses to run. We've got taxes to pay, whatever it is, right? That we end up forgetting to be childlike and to play, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was Picasso, it says something to this effect of, because his paintings and everything were so childlike. And his point was, the whole point of being an artist is to try to tap into that and be like a child again, right? Yeah. And so that's kind of what we're talking about. One of the ways to do that is play. So
yeah. Yay. Well, and we are multiplicity beings. We have different aspects of ourselves, and we've talked so much about ego states. Mike Mandel talked about ego states. You and I just had a whole episode on ego states. If you aren't familiar with that, go listen to that episode. It's basically saying that we have these different aspects of our personality, and one of them is little kid, and that part of ourselves has to be nurtured, especially if it was scared or if it felt abandoned back when we were a child. It's important to let that part out to play. And it was a couple weeks ago, and I texted my boyfriend, and we talk about ego states all the time. So he's very familiar with this language. And I texted him, it was a Monday, and I said, I just need to acknowledge that my little kid really feels neglected. She really feels like she wants to come out and play. And we've been doing way too much adulting. I'm in the middle of a refi. I'm in the middle of buying out my ex from our condo. I'm in the middle, all this adult stuff. And so he wrote back, I've got it taken care of, babe. So I get home that night, and he says, so we're going to have dinner. I went, okay. We were going to finish watching one episode of this thing we were watching. He goes, and then
we're going to get Play-Doh.
And he pulled, because we have this. And so we pulled out the Play-Doh, and we sat at the table, and I made a mess, and and my stuff looked like shit, and it didn't matter. I made a cat that looked so horrible. He made a really good dog. It was really, he made a Brab. I don't know what he did. He was much better than me, but it wasn't about that. It was about just playing. And we made these things, and then we pulled out glow sticks, and then we made stuff with the glow sticks and the Play-Doh, and then we turned the lights off, and we made loops with the glow sticks, and we threw them around the room, and we had so much fun. And it completely regenerated me. It completely decreased my stress. For that hour or hour and a half, I forgot about all that adulting that I had to do. It was so much fun. And I love that I'm in a partnership with someone who can bring those aspects out in me. Find someone you can play with.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because, when you think about it, I do a lot with teaching people how to learn as well, right? So why do you suppose that kids learn so quickly? Why kids develop so quickly? Part of the reason is their curiosity and their play, right? And so again, I mean, you think about, I've got 4 kids from one marriage, 2 from another, right? So I've had lots of kids that I've observed, my own and other kids as well, right? Mm-hmm. Well, why do kids play house? Well, kids play house to learn how to be an adult, right? Oh. And so even the more fun we have as we're learning, the more curious we are in life in general, right? The more we're going to learn. Yeah. But we also said, I mean, just what what you just talked about there with the Play-Doh and the glow sticks, for an hour and a half, you were mindful. You were in the present for that hour and a half as well. So play can also help us just forget about everything else and just focus in on what it is that we're doing at that time, which is playing.
Yeah, presence.
And playing also moves us up in the emotional scale as well.
It totally does. And it's so regenerating. I mean, it was the best vacation. I mean, it was just it was just a complete break from stress. And the other thing that can get for us Capricorns and us, I'm Capricorn in the ego state sense, not the zodiac sense, but for, we are so used to having to be serious and adult and not screw around and not play. Make sure your judge doesn't come in. Because I did have that problem. Like I did this cat and then I went, oh, that's terrible. It was awful. Yours looks so much better than me. Not playing at that point. Tell the judge to go away.
Judge, go away.
It's not about doing it right. It's just about doing it. Color outside the frickin' lines, and that's where sometimes like dance class for me is still play, but it's also very competitive for me because I want to get it right. There are times where once I have the routine down, I'm just dancing to the music and not thinking about making it look good. So, make sure your play stays play. It's great if you're doing a dodgeball game, except if you become so competitive, you have to win. It's no longer play at that point. It becomes a task. So, make sure you keep all the other ego states out and just play for a while.
Well, there's a lot of different ways to play as well, right? And so, I mean, again, you can literally do like some really kiddie things like playing with Play-Doh and glow sticks. Great, right? Yeah. Going outside and playing with lizards or whatever, right? Okay. Oh, you got bubbles as well.
I got bubbles.
But this time of the year, we have a lot of people in our family's birthdays are around the same time. So last night, excuse me, we were actually playing games.
Yeah.
Right, as part of it. And so again, whatever you like, Cards Against Humanity, well, that's going to be fun. That gets you playing, right? Because
I love that game.
One of my friends calls it it's bullshit in a box. You can sell bullshit in a box.
Anyway, I love
anyway, it's a great game, right? We did this other one, I think my wife bought one called Beat That or something like that, where it's all these different little things. Like last night we had to use chopsticks to pick up dice and stack the dice, or we had, you have to stack cups, but you can only use your elbows to move the cups, right?
I love stuff like that.
So it's all just like silly little stuff, but again, it gets us away from whatever else we're doing. It allows us to play. Usually you're gonna laugh when you're playing. That releases all those different chemicals in your body as well, and it moves you up the emotional scale, right? Yeah. So again, if you're feeling down a little bit, or like you were saying yesterday or whenever it was, right? My little girl needs to come out. You were realizing, you acknowledged and realized you were feeling kind of heavy. Yeah. I've been too much of an adult. I need to be a little kid for an hour and a half, and the difference that made for you.
Well, and I was telling you before we got on the air, I just did a really great workshop through the International Coaching Federation, and it was, and I forget the man's name, I apologize, but he did a talk on stress and resilience, and he was talking about things that are a brain drain versus a brain gain. And one of the things that was a brain gain was kids, mainly because of the play. They are also a brain drain, so they were in both categories. But he was talking about how, playing, changes our brain function. We use a different part of our brain, and it is actually one of those ways to regenerate. And he was talking about how, we're really only made to work for 90 to 120 minutes before our brain just goes, I'm out. So if you can stop and play, play with dice or play with bubbles, or, we've done our what's on our desk thing. And both of us have so many things that are just sort of kid-like and playful. So it's like, your brain needs it. You're not going to be as productive if you just try to power through. So you might as well take a break and play with something fun. We've got a rubber ball that occasionally we bounce around the house. We've got, I love these things. We have so much stuff to play. But we have these rubber balls, which is great, except when you bang them, they light up
too.
So, we'll throw these back and forth in the dark, and, we just have so much fun. And it doesn't have to be a long thing. It doesn't have to take some huge investment of money. It does just have to be something that gets you out of yourself, that takes you out of that adulting, because we do so much of that. And especially, like, we don't have kids, so we don't get to get down on the floor and play Legos or play Matchbox cars or any of those things. We have to create that for ourselves. And as the kids get older, I know you're probably not down on the floor with your son.
No, because they're all gone. They're out of the house, right?
I mean, when they come
over, we'll play games, maybe kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, it's
Yeah. So figure out what, and I love what you said about, board games can be great, or there's so many games now that aren't, we had what, Monopoly, Clue, and Life when we were kids.
Yeah.
Now there's all these like, excuse me, like interactive games where, like Pictionary, and there's one used to be called like Clay something, where you had to sculpt it.
Oh,
It gave
Sculprit. I don't remember.
Play-Doh, and it was Pictionary, but you had to sculpt stuff, and everything looked like a penis. That was the answer to everything. Because we're playing and we're getting goofy, and kids like to laugh about farts and poop, and so it's like, just get silly, tell jokes. It's the other thing, tell jokes, just laugh.
Well, and it's funny too, because as you know, a lot of times when we're in our adult ego state, we say things like you were talking about. Your judge came in and said, "Oh, that cat wasn't very good," right? And really, play is a way of taking time for ourselves as well. Okay, so it's a bit of self-love, self-care, in doing that. And like you said, taking a half an hour to do something that is non-adult, non-productive, non-business related will charge you up, and you'll get more done when you go back
Mhm.
than if you try to power through. I mean, again, there's
Yep.
been lots of studies done on productivity,
Yep.
on this, and yeah, it's anywhere from it. And it kind of varies between 20 to 120 minutes. You need to take breaks in there, right? And we've talked about taking breaks before,
Yeah.
in earlier podcasts, but yeah, why not do some things that you know make it fun for you? Put on some music and dance around for
Yeah.
5 minutes. Pull out the Play-Doh, the Rubik's Cube. I've got a Rubik's Cube
Yeah.
here. Whatever it is that works for you,
Hmm.
and just take some time to play.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I was gonna say too, or maybe it's a silly costume. I love, because I was a theater person, I still have bins of costumes. People still to this day call me and go, "Do you have a blah blah blah?" And 9 times out of 10, I have it. Do you have a magic wand? Of course I do. I mean, come on. And
Start
tonight,
a side costume business for
oh,
Halloween,
I
right?
I know, seriously, I have so many costumes. People always call me for that. But it's like, to me it's fun. And there was one night we just pulled out all the costumes and just dressed up in the house, and just to play dress up like kids do. It's so freeing, and I love that I have a partner that I could do that with, and that we're both only children. We both grew up just sitting around talking to ourselves. So now we get to talk to ourselves with another person and just go back to that playfulness. And it's so, it has to be whatever works for you. If you're not into, putting on costumes and being goofy around the house, don't pick that one. Make sure it's something that you resonate with. Maybe it is Play-Doh. Think about what you got to do as a kid. And bubbles, you can't help but giggle when there's bubbles in the room. I mean, it's just, you just can't help it. It's the greatest thing ever. So
Well, and even watching a funny movie,
yeah.
right, is a form of play, because again, you're going to be laughing, you're going to be doing other stuff. But there's even some other things like, it was all the rage for a little while, the adult coloring books.
Yeah.
Because it was the same thing. It was, you're coloring within the lines, you're making a piece of art, but you're still focusing on and being mindful in that particular moment of what you're
Hmm.
doing, focusing on that. It's a creative outlet, and it's fun, or it's relaxing, right?
Yeah.
So again, as you're thinking about play, think about ways that you can either, get yourself all excited and start laughing and being goofy,
Hmm.
or maybe other ways, because another way of play is kind of calming and piecing yourself out too a little bit.
Sure.
And both of those actually serve you in, releasing whatever's going on,
Hmm.
release the ego state, just be in that other state for a little while. And then when you go back, you're going to be more charged. I love that brain drain versus brain gain activities. The
Yeah.
more brain gain activities you engage in, whew, the better your life is going to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe it's a puzzle. Maybe it's paint by number. Whatever works for you.
Yep.
So,
Everybody's going to
yay.
be different.
I don't want to go to work now. I want to play.
Well, you got some Play-Doh right there. You might as well pick it up and start
I
start going with it.
know. I know. I'm going to play with the bubbles. The bubbles and the cat.
Yeah. Well, it looks like the cat wants to play today anyway. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm out of that ego state now.
Okay.
There goes a little kid. Okay.
All right.
Oh, I think this is great. I mean, there's not a lot of deep information here for everybody, but if this gives you permission to go be goofy for a second or silly or make faces in the mirror, just go do that thing. Just be free. Have a great day. Work some play in. Encourage other people to play. This is why I love magic. Watch some magic shows on TV or something, and just be in that moment. Be present.
That curiosity, that sense of awareness, of amazement and wonder that is so childlike. Yeah.
Exactly. Cool. All right, everybody, go out and play. Let us know how it goes. You can always email us or leave notes in the, leave reviews on our show and tell us how your play went today. So I'm Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygruver.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, play, have fun, blow some bubbles, do whatever relates to you. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. See ya.
See ya.